In the realm of war, you don't send somebody out alone. And we know that's stupid, but we do it every week in the church. We do it every single week. We talk of war, we prepare for war, and as we leave, we send each other off to single battles instead of charging with the cry, "Let us go." Then we don't have to fight. I'm prepared for them to make the wrong decision, because why would they make the right decision? You see, our hands aren't tied because of our government. Our hands are tied because we have a small view of God. That's what our hands are tied by. Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Let us go." He says, "We can take the hill, just the two of us." He understood that the hill would not be taken alone. He was unwilling to die on the wrong side of the hill. But it wasn't just him. He invited his armor bearer to join him. He said, "I won't die on the wrong side of the hill. And if you decide to die on the wrong side of the hill, it won't be because I didn't invite you." This is key. This unnamed, unknown armor bearer, the assistant of Jonathan. We've become so personal and so private in our walks and our wars. So unspoken about how our Christianity is lived throughout the week. We now have personal devotions. We have personal studies. We have personal prayer journals. And that's okay, but we were not made to walk this alone. Jonathan didn't send his armor bearer across the hill with a plan to have a follow-up meeting the next Sunday. "You go, we'll meet back here next week. Let me know how you did." That's stupid. That's in the realm of war, you don't send somebody out alone. And we know that's stupid, but we do it every week in the church. We do it every single week. We talk of war, we prepare for war, and as we leave, we send each other off to single battles instead of charging with the cry, "Let us go." I got a text early this week as I'm working through this passage. And it was a bold text for this person to send. And I haven't got the chance to talk to him about it. It was great in the context of what I was studying. It says, "Hey, just want to remind you that you struggle with this." Wow. Now, before, you know how you assume the rest of the text now? It said, in not so many words, this is what it said. "I know you struggle with this, but charge the hill. And just so you know, I struggled too, and I'm charging behind you." On a Monday, not even on a church day, someone wanted to charge a hill. And I did. Not for me, for him. Because he charged the hill for me. That's how war works. That's how brotherhood works. That's how men of God move mountains. This thing, battery's going to go dead on this thing one of these days. Jonathan didn't gather his armor bearer for prayer in the shadows of the enemy and ask that God would save them from facing the battle. Before he even sought God, he said, "Let us go." We pray our way out of the battle instead of praying our way through the battle. Now, I want to make a side note here. I want to just look what happens in verse 8. Then Jonathan said, his military strategic plan here, "Behold, we will cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves to them." 2, a garrison was about 20 men, special ops. So like best of the best. If I'm his armor bearer right now, you're questioning his sanity. He said, "Behold, we'll cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves to them. If they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand still in our place, and we will not go up to them." What's going to happen there? Battle, right? They're going to come down, and we're going to what? Battle. If they say, "Come up to us," then we will go up, for the Lord has given them into our hand. Remember the verse before, though? This is a bad idea. It seems like a really, really bad idea. But he said, "This shall be a sign to us." So both of them showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines. They stood before the enemy. They made themselves known to the enemy before they knew what the outcome would be. We're either going to fight and win, or they're going to come down and we're going to die. But we're here to fight. We're here to fight. They locked eyes with evil. They said, "I'm not hiding. I'm not a coward. Either you come down or we're coming up, but we're going to fight. We're going to fight because I'm not going to die on the wrong side of the hill." But they did not move ahead of the Lord's approval, which he gave them. But I don't want to miss this key piece of the armor bearer, because the armor bearer is a necessity. There's a huge misconception in churches about what this armor bearer's job actually was. So I want to just take a minute and clarify this, because when we talk about armor bearers, preach about armor bearers, tell our kids about armor bearer, we say, well, it's one who bears armor, right? So they would carry the armor for the said leader, right? So here's the armor bearer of Jonathan. Jonathan goes to war, and here's the armor bearer. Right? We look at the armor bearer as like a surgical nurse. Scissors, scalpel, sweat rag. That's not, how much sense does that make in war? It makes no sense, right? The armor bearer would have had to have been a pretty decent warrior himself, right? He's carrying the weapons, but he's in war. Do you think they just had a truce, like, you don't mess with my armor bearer, I don't mess with yours? No. The armor bearer job was so much more. The job of the armor bearer was to finish off. I like that. So Jonathan and the armor bearer go into this battle. Jonathan takes them down. The armor bearer finishes them off. He's like the coroner, right? Who assists in your battles? Who can confirm your enemies deceased at the scene? Proverbs 17:17 says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. But here's something to note. Remember, Scripture tells us that only Saul and Jonathan had weapons, right? So this was interesting. This was interesting to me. There's something to be told here. So what this tells us is the armor bearer was only able to assist because of the sword of the one he was assisting. Oh, that's deep. We should get our muck boots on. Maybe our waders, because we're getting deep here. This might be the reason no one has ever been able to help you. May it be in discipleship, may it be in counseling, in motivating, in teaching, or in preaching, the effectiveness of those you bring along to assist you can only be as effective as your arsenal, not theirs. Anyone you bring alongside you can only bear your weapons. I will counsel totally different. You see, it's not anyone's fault that you can't fix your marriage. Well, if we had a better counselor, no, if you had a better weapon, the preacher could have helped you. If you had a better weapon, the church wouldn't have seemed dead and cold and immobile, right? The armor bearer is only as effective as the one which he carries the armor for. In this battle that we face, and it's one of my favorite scriptures to quote, we say, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." But how many times when we say that, do we push others away who need to be in the house? This is my house. And if my house starts not serving the Lord, you come to my house, right? Because it's your house too. But you see, as warriors, we have to have an eye not only on our home, but on our horizon. There is a huge danger in only focusing within our home privately. Men were made for the battlefield. 2 Samuel 11 is an example of a man without an armor bearer, alone, with his vision off the horizon. You're familiar with the story. It says, in the spring of the year, the time when kings go to battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. Why did David fall? Because he was supposed to be at war, but he stayed home. He stayed home. You see, men especially, we're left with three options in this life. We can fight, we can fall, or we can live a life of absolutely no consequence. George Whitefield said, "It is an inevitable privilege to have a company of fellow soldiers continually about us, animating and exhorting each other to stand our ground, to keep our ranks, and manfully to follow the captain of our salvation, though it be through a sea of blood." I want to stand with a guy like Whitefield. Have we forgotten our heritage? Have we forgotten our bloodline that Hebrews says through faith conquered kingdoms, enforced justice, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, were made strong out of weakness, become mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight? That blood runs through my veins. Y'all are weak today. You're weak today. Jonathan wasn't afraid of the enemy. He says, and he said it loud, the uncircumcised Philistine. That's trash talk. I like trash talk. You don't get a trash talk much as a preacher, though. You don't. Me and Dad trash talk about sermons. But it's weird. It's not as fun. But he says, you uncircumcised. I mean, David uses this language too, right? This meant something to Israel, right? He wasn't afraid because he knew that any strength this garrison of Philistines had was merely human strength. The circumcised had the covenant. They had the promise of God's protection. The only diagnosing of this enemy that needed done was Jonathan seeing it. God was not their God. He wasn't on their side. That's it. That's all he needed to see. No enemy should intimidate the child of God. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. He won't leave us and forsake us. Why are we hiding with the dead? I think this short line, this short statement here, gives us a notice of where Jonathan's vision was. A peep through his battle-filled eyes. God. God's what he saw beyond the horizon. He sees God. He didn't have to stop and ask God to be with him. He knew he was because of the covenant. Now, we like faith, right? We like talking about faith. We like to sing about faith, preach about faith, teach about faith. But faith honestly makes us uncomfortable. It makes us really uncomfortable. Exercising faith is its own battle, right? It's its own battle. We want guarantees. We want guarantees, right? Well, Lord, what should I do? Well, you should fight. Fight for the kingdom. And if you're not fighting, don't expect an answer to the prayer. Go to battle. Make war. Take the hill. You want a guarantee? I guarantee you, if you're a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ and you die in battle, it'll be well done, good and faithful servant. Enter now into the joy of the Lord. That's your guarantee. It's the only one we need, right? Why do we need anything else? Well, if it's going to hurt, I want to know it's going to be worth it. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it, but guarantees shrink our faith, right? I want to know the will of God for my life. You want to know the future. You want to be able to walk through life with no faith. That's what you're asking for. You're asking for it to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But listen to Jonathan's approach. It may be that the Lord will work for us. If I'm the armor bearer, I say, back that up. Don't you talk with him on a regular basis? Is the walkie-talkie breaking up here? Did I catch a niner in there? What? Did you say it may be? You know what I hear in that statement of Jonathan? A willingness to take a risk. It may be, but it may not be. But we're going to find out, yes, I like people like that. When's the last time you risked for the glory of God? When is the last time you moved without guarantee for the advancement of the kingdom? When is the last time you charged simply because the flag of Christ was not flying on top of the hill? Have you ever drawn your sword towards the garrison simply because of the godlessness that was evident? Why do we shrink back when our backs are against the wall? Why has our roar been reduced to a whimper? You see, I hear a lot of maybe. Maybe we would be rejected. Maybe we would lose. Maybe we would suffer. Maybe we would go broke. Maybe we would die. But maybe, church, the Lord would work for us. Maybe, just maybe. Hebrews 10, 36 through 39. Whew, I'm sweating up here. You guys hot? It gets better. Just wait. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. For yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by... Oh, come on now. But my righteous one shall live by... Right. And if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. No pleasure in the coward. But we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who have faith and preserve their souls. We are not of those that shrink back. Are you? I'm not. I don't want to be. No way. You might be familiar with the story of two Moravian men, young men, 36 and 26-year-old, that heard of the misfortunes of a certain group of slaves on an island in the Caribbean. And they heard that there was a great spiritual hunger among these 2,000 to 3,000 African slaves on this island. These slaves were owned by a British atheist who said no clergy, no pastor would ever step foot near him nor these slaves to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, because he was done with it. So these slaves, destined to live out the rest of their lives on this island, working sugarcane fields, never hearing the gospel of Jesus Christ. But two young men, a Jonathan and an armor bearer, were determined to go no matter what was necessary. They were determined to take the hill, even when they were told they would have to sell themselves into slavery in order to preach to the slaves. As they stood on the ship, as the waves and the tide pushed it out to sea, gazing upon their family, their friends, their church, knowing it would be the last time that they would see their faces, these two men of God locked arms. They raised their fists in the air and they shouted, "May the Lamb that was slain receive the reward of his suffering." Wow. Why do we fight these battles? Why do we go through these places and to these places and pray for these people so that the Lamb that was slain may receive the reward of His suffering? He called out, church, go get it. Go get my reward that I bled and I died for. Where are those men? What would cause young men to take such risk? It's certain they had a right view of who God was, who God is. They had an opportunity to expand the kingdom. They had a sword. They had faith. And I believe they had a small conversation that went something like this. Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few. It was just two of them, Jonathan and an armor bearer, with the willingness to take a hill together. So as we leave here today, may it be a charge over the hill as Jonathan and his armor bearer. You see, our surroundings don't lack needs. There's no lack of battles to run into. There's just a lack of warriors to fight them. Everything around us seems to be broken except for the church's heart. Let us go. Don't look for it to be easy. Find your arsenal. Find an armor bearer. Charge a hill. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few. And as we go, might we remember the words, powerful words of these two young missionary men. See, the fight's not about us. It's not about our glory. But may the Lamb that was slain receive the reward of His